This week's episode was brought to you by Noel Roberts. Thank you, Noel Roberts. It's with the generous support of listeners like yourself that we humble weirdos working at the Whole Rabbit get to keep deep fat frying high quality esoteric potato chips for your brain cravings every week. If you too would like to support the Whole Rabbit, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your donation of just $5 a month will get you access to our entire library of extended episodes, a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our cover art sent to you at no additional cost, and access to our Discord server where we hang out and talk about things that will horrify and confuse your neighbors. For the intrepid seekers, we have a $10 tier that earns you access to our voluminous show notes and a holographic sticker designed by Mari Sama-chan herself. In this week's episode, we discuss the spiritual and practical relationships with mind-altering substances, DMT, cannabis, and ketamine. We discuss some of the ailments DMT has been known to treat or even cure, the ancient origins of cannabis, its use among the ancient Egyptians, and what exactly ketamine has to do with Echo the Dolphin. In the extended episode, Heka Astra compacts centuries of alchemical wisdom into about 45 minutes that anybody can understand, with about 45 seconds of Aleister Crowley that nobody can. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
I have 4 beverages right now.
That's how many beverages you need when you're a master alchemist.
Sitting around all this $1,000 glassware you can't even move or sneeze.
You do, you just break everything.
It's like, oops, one of my beard hairs fell in the potion. My meth lab is blowing up.
Wow.
These guys are probably like constantly high brewing this stuff, man. Suffering brain damage.
Suffering vein damage. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you the secrets of alchemy in plain English for the low price of storage space on your podcasting device of choice. Nay, we discover the occult origins of Echo the Dolphin too, and tell you exactly what it has to do with taking intravenous ketamine a little too regularly, and you being contacted by an interdimensional supercomputer from deep space that's hell-bent on enslaving the consciousness of the entire galaxy, because this week we're discussing spagyrics, alchemy, and drugs. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, sometimes known as the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by co-host Mari Campari-sama, the Licker of Toads.
Hey, everybody.
Malcor 5, the High Priest of the Chemical Wedding.
You may kiss the scribe.
And our co-host and guest speaker is the Black Magic Alchemist Magi herself, Heka Astra.
Hello. It's Spagyric.
Thank you.
Spagyrics. It's a gyro, not a gyro.
I once got in a fight with someone over if it was caramel or caramel. I don't think there's an answer.
It's both.
I was going to say, aren't both of those correct?
Yeah, it's, again, tomato.
I just don't understand how people will say, instead of H, they'll say H.
H.
Like, what? Like, I need to refill my HP with this potion. I'm like, what the fuck?
What?
Yeah, it's like an English thing. Like UK people.
Just like herb and herb are both accurate.
Yep.
Herb.
Herb. I'm Canadian. I say herb.
When I was in high school, we were taking philosophy class, and you know, when you read the narrative of why Socrates was sentenced to death, it's like he was accused of pretty much corrupting the youth. Like, the future is going to go crazy with what you're talking about. And they debated him until he was like, you know what, I'm done. And he just drank some poison made out of hemlock. And I always thought that was kind of weird.
Right before he died, he asked them to kill a cock. I forget for who, but it was for one of the gods. Make sure to kill a cock for certain. No.
What's interesting is that the state actually, that was his death sentence that the state ordered him to do. And he willfully took the poison in his own bed in his own house with his students surrounding him when he died. He would be like, I would rather myself than lie for your benefit.
Well, he could have been exiled too.
Yeah, that too, but he understood the importance of him as a teacher to them, or even a martyr for the understanding that he brought upon the world.
Maybe I'm a wuss, but I'd rather be exiled than drink hemlock.
Hemlock cured us of Socrates.
F and chat.
Don't do anything we talk about in this podcast. We're not responsible for anything, and plants are not real. It's all hypothetical. Since time immemorial, people have been putting things in their mouth. In times past, the domain of putting strange, new, or potentially dangerous things in their mouth fell to the tribal shaman. This was typically the local weirdo on the edge of the village who possessed the ability to speak with the spirits. Naturally, these two things went together, and communing with a plant spirit often involved consuming it to gain its wisdom, but maybe more mundanely to learn its effects firsthand. Once possessed of the power and wisdom a spirit could grant, it would enable the shaman heroic feats to share with the tribe, such as divining the future, making the sick healthy again, finding lost or stolen objects, retrieving lost or stolen souls, and speaking to the ancestors and animal spirits for insight about the future and past.
So is a shaman essentially like the guy that you test your drugs on before you start selling it to other people?
There's like a whole process to figuring out if a plant is edible or not, like going from completely unknown to whether or not you can use it as food or medicinally. It like starts off touching it, you like touch it to a certain part of your skin, and then like, okay, if you don't have a reaction, you like touch it to your lips, and it just like, it's a very slow like escalation. You don't just go and eat a random plant and go like, well, if I die, I die.
You got to romance it a little bit, you know, just kind of step into it easy.
Yeah, and a large part of alchemy started off with dyeing things anyway, different colors. And like, you know, it reminds me of hair dyeing. You know, you have to test a small patch of your skin to see if you're going to, you know, have an allergic reaction to the product. So you got to just do a small spot. Don't do the whole head in your first go because you might lose your hair, which is also a part of alchemy, I guess.
Did you know that that's how they cure allergies now? Like, they used to tell you not to give your kid peanuts if they showed an allergy, but now the cure to it is to give them a little bit of peanut at a time until they get over their allergy.
You can actually get injections for allergies, like if you're allergic to cats and dogs, and those injections are exactly that. Like they have a little bit of the allergen that they inject you with, and you slowly build up a tolerance to it.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
we're talking like this is like experimental stuff. If we're talking like ancient shaman times.
Oh, definitely.
I'm talking about those people where the guy fell into the fire and they ate him. Those are those people I'm talking about.
They're trying everything.
Yeah, like, Grug, what grow in bush? Me eat, find out, Grug die. Grug die.
Bush no good eat. Grug die from bush.
In his 1992 classic, Food of the Gods, Terence McKenna argues that our maligned outlook towards drugs and our problematic relationship with them, either spurning them or falling into obsessive addiction, is rooted in what he calls the ego dominator culture and our alienation from the natural world. Rather than supposing our drug experiences are entirely meaningless and inane, Terence supposes that substances which alter our consciousness, the word we use nowadays is entheogens, have the potential to help humans communicate with vegetable, animal, mineral, and maybe even cosmic consciousness to live in greater harmony with ourselves and the natural world. While Terence McKenna supposed that even ego-dominator cultures used drugs, they tended towards the speedy, endurance-giving, pain-numbing, focus-imparting, consciousness-contracting, work-harder variety that aligned with our ego-driven, frantic, consumer capitalist worldview, such as caffeine, nicotine, amphetamines, and alcohol, just to name of the few legal ones. But what about shamanic cultures that are still close to nature and Mother Earth? What might we learn from their entheogenic substances that they like to use? Dating back well over 1,000 years, as archaeological evidence shows, psychoactive vine beverage ayahuasca has been a beloved favorite in South America across various different cultures and used for a variety of reasons. Some cultures use it for shamanic and ritual purposes, while others consume it with friends to learn about the environment or visit family far away, quote unquote. For decades, researchers have puzzled over the mystery of the origin of ayahuasca, especially the question of how the synergy was discovered between the two components of the brew, the vine, Banisteriopsis caapi, with a monoamine oxidase inhibiting action, and the leaf, Psychotria viridis, which requires that MAOI action to make the dimethyltryptamine orally active. When researchers from the West first discovered ayahuasca, they didn't really know how to make it work in a lab back home when they had the ingredients all to themselves. Eventually, they figured out the vine needs the MAOI inhibitor to work. When they went back and asked the curanderos how they figured it out, they replied that it was the plant who told them.
That's cool.
It's interesting that you also must intake the plant to actually communicate with it.
Yeah, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's kind of it's tricky.
And it was a very specific combination that results in an orally, viable product. Because if you just ate straight DMT, it doesn't affect your body the same way without the MAOI inhibitor.
Yeah, your body breaks it down before it can become psychoactive.
It can go to your brain. It doesn't pass your blood-brain barrier without that, and it can't get through your blood without it.
Yeah, so pretty much our brains have the receptors for these chemicals. And if whatever you're consuming doesn't make these things go to work, you ain't going to see shit.
It has to deliver the payload to the brain. That's the problem. But the leaves of the concoction actually brew it into a tea that can pass into your brain.
The active ingredient in ayahuasca is, of course, dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, a substance found in abundance in the natural world and is produced, at least in small amounts, naturally in the human brain. The now controversial studies by Rick Strassman and his prolific DMT, the spirit molecule, suggests that it's released in large amounts during birth and death, and in smaller amounts while dreaming. Users of DMT report quite regularly being transported out of their body, beholding kaleidoscopic vistas in colors that defy normal description, profound life-changing epiphanies, and of course, interactions with perceived intelligences that occupy the psychedelic space. Terence McKenna famously described these beings as machine elves and entertained audiences by speaking in their language.
And there's also the jesters. Like, he talked about some jester entities, and then Joe Rogan confirmed that when he was talking about his trip.
Well, what's interesting about DMT is that this happens at a regular dose, where not so much with other substances, but we'll talk about that shortly.
But DMT is actually created by your pineal gland, and it secretes into your cerebrospinal fluid. So it's that fluid in the sheath that comes from your brainstem all the way down your spine. So that's kind of where it lives if you manufacture it in your own brain.
Now, besides being able to see through time, space, and talk to machine elves, ayahuasca is famous for its ability to help people move beyond obstacles in their life, like trauma, phobias, addiction, and personality problems. In this way, the chemical effects a drug has on the mind-body complex would be considered a medicine, and the production and skillful administering of said drug a spiritual art and chemical science. So while a drug can always and always will be enjoyed for fun, their unique qualities can be harnessed for specific purposes and used for spiritual ends. In the case of DMT, studies show that ayahuasca use, especially in a therapeutic setting, can have long-term positive effects on anxiety and depression. For some, vaporized DMT has proven to be the only reliable form of relief from a lifetime of debilitating migraines, and some studies suggest it may have a neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory property associated with it.
So I've done DMT a few times, but you're saying you've done it at Burning Man?
Yeah, I was dumb. The thing about the MAOI inhibitor, from what I understand, it really needs to be there when you take it orally. If you just vaporize it and you inhale it straight into your lungs, that's the fastest way to blast off. And when I was a little mini young hippie, it was always like, hey man, you want to try DMT? Well, don't tell your friends because I got to pull out this crack pipe and I got to teach you how to smoke it through this little crack pipe thing. And that was actually really hard to do because you could like burn it or not get hot enough. And then there was always like some guy like staring at you with like, don't waste my DMT, right?
Out in the desert.
I don't think I could do it that quickly. The oral way, the uptake is slower. So you trip for a lot longer at a milder rate, but it can also cause stomach disrupt, which I'm not a huge fan of either.
Well, you go through La Purga, which is like you vomit out all your impurities, and this is associated with like not just physical, but spiritual impurities. Well, here's the thing. Some genius got the idea that you could just put this in a little vapor pen and just like one of those vapor weed pens, and that's what I did. I was walking Sunday morning on my way to the man, which had been burnt the night before, and I passed this friend. He was like, hey man, you want to take a hit of Dimitri? And I was like, okay. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't. And I just grabbed it and took this huge rip. And I passed it back to him. And he said, I held it too. And he was like, good luck. And I was like, okay. And I just started walking. It became very evident. Yeah, very quickly. I was not going to walk any more steps. I like veered to the right quickly, threw my backpack off, and just laid down like all Cross of Osiris style on the ground.
Oh man!
Oh my goodness!
I was
you were
like,
gone.
I was like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna just lay here and watch this for a minute and just be a weird Burning Man person. And what I saw was,
You became the Burning Man.
imagine if you saw like the XYZ axis opening and closing like a book, and then mandala-ing on itself.
Yeah, the enfoldment of reality.
And to be fair, it had a stereotypically kaleidoscopic psychedelic aesthetic to it, which I thought was interesting. And the threeness of it, the XYZ-ness of it, I thought was very consistent throughout that space of time. And I thought that was very interesting. And my psyche chose that, not some other number, some other geometry.
When I did it out in the desert, I was straight up seeing like cards coming up out of the ground.
Ooh.
Yeah, and like in the geometries of it, like it was like opening up this slice, and out of it came these cards that were folding out one at a time.
What kind of cards were they?
Tarot, like microchips maybe or something, but like tarot images or sigils.
Oh, cool.
And I was just like, dude, this is amazing. Like, whoa. Like that was at night.
I would like to experience that. I've heard many people retell their vision being superimposed over normal reality, like opened eye hallucinations that are like profound, right?
Yeah, because I retained my consciousness, like during that time. Other times it was like, you're grounded. You can't move.
So like if you were to stare at the sun and then like look away and the colors would be all like pulsing and off and weird and wrong because you just stared at the sun, you know how that looked and felt? That's how everything looked and felt.
Oh, like it's superimposed over your camera view.
Like
it just keeps happening.
Like whatever the sensor had been like cranked to 11 and it was like burning out, and like I didn't have any impression that I would be able to experience anything with my eyes open. It was just not. When I opened my eyes to look, I didn't notice anything besides the colors being screwed up. But when I closed my eyes, I saw full-on visuals. Honestly,
Whoa.
In terms of how Terrence McKenna says, I don't think I quote-unquote went through the chrysanthemum. I think once you go through that dimension, that's when you go, quote, out of body. I don't think I really got that far.
Right.
I definitely couldn't walk, though.
And then he also mentions that when you do mushrooms, which are a lot milder, that you should do it at a high dose in a dark room to enhance the visualization.
I agree with what he says, but, who am I? So on DMT, I've heard at least 2 stories of DMT showing people something stereotypically cringe, at least for that individual person. My Satanist friend, who I talk a lot about on the show, he saw Illuminati, pyramid eyes, unicorns, rainbows, and he, like, all the psychedelic subculture stuff he loathes. That's what he saw.
Oh, it was like, yeah, it's real. How do you feel about that?
Yes. I had another friend he's kind of like the manly man. He's like the dude's dude. When he hit it once, he had like the fruitiest guy covered in feathers, all just like jiving his hips and his neck. He was like, just a taste, just a taste, just a taste. DMT has the capacity to like mess with you on a personal level. That's all I know.
But it's more playful about how it does it, though.
Yeah.
From what I understand.
Yeah, the machine elves sound playful. From what I can tell, they all sound a bit tricksterish. So.
Annoying. They could be annoying and then send you into a panic attack. But at the same time, if you laugh along with them, it seems to turn into a better trip from the ones that I read about. And they'll show you things if you cooperate, which is interesting. They'll show you how apparently reality is stitched together.
I just want to thank the first person to burn cannabis and get high and then go tell his homies about it. Puff, puff, pass.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, dude, because you're doing us a solid one.
He probably couldn't go tell his friends. He's probably like,
No, but he would, because puff, puff, pass is the eternal sacred vow of smoking marijuana, is you must share with somebody.
Yeah, that's just like the message that the plant gives me after I've smoked it for, about 10 years now, I guess.
It's my medicine, too.
No, it straight up kind of gives you that message of like, no, this is for everybody. Like, if they need some, you got to give them some. Like, no questions asked.
You know how they say dogs are man's best friend?
Yeah.
And we've had dogs around a long time. We've evolved alongside it.
Marijuana is the dog of plants. You're so right.
It has been around a while. It even kind of has a name like dogs.
And
Canis,
you know that
cannabis.
It's one of the only plants that we have receptors for THC in our brains. It's waiting for us to smoke the plant because we don't manufacture that and we don't ingest it in nature. It's just that one plant that has it.
Now, fair warning, pretty much everything I say after this point is like bad Uncle Stoner facts that good luck fact checking. I tried for some of it. I just can't. I just have to admit, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a podcaster who smokes weed. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of weed. Salt, whatever.
And it was all discovered before we even had like measured scientific, procedures or any of that. So it's all he say, she say.
It's mixed with some genealogy though. They can trace the strains.
Yeah, and they can trace the chemical reactors in our brain that pick it up.
Now, I heard one time somebody told me once that the cows used to graze on it, and then it would go into the milk. So it was in our diet naturally. Now it's not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, because the cows aren't free anymore.
That makes sense, though.
Damn. Cows ain't getting high anymore?
You know, cheese has little opiates in it called casomorphins.
Morphine queso.
It's real. It's like it's related to morphine.
Is this why cheese makes me feel so damn good when I eat it?
Yes.
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 No, that's true. It's true. You can actually you can get like cravings and stuff too and become addicted to cheese.
I
Like,
am
for
addicted to cheese.
For real. That's because of the casomorphin.
I got a migraine once because I came off of casomorphins on accident. I saw my dad do it with coffee once. My mom bought decaf. He was sick for days. Same thing happened to me with cheese, okay? It can happen to you. Just say no to cheese.
We have such an old relationship with hemp. We've been growing, and utilizing hemp for so many different things for so long. I think, of course, we're going to have the cannabinoid receptors for it. It's been part of our history for so long.
It's like Enki made that to go with us. He's like, here's the unit. Here's the diagnostic debugging plant you put with it, the human. They go together.
I'll be back for your souls later.
You have to remember, it's not just THC that we have cannabinoid receptors for. Like, hemp is full of cannabinoids as well, even though it has like less than 1% THC. And all of those cannabinoids, I can't say for sure all of them, but I know there's a lot of those different cannabinoids that we do have receptors for, regardless of psychotropic effect.
Yes. Around 4000 BC in East Asia, extending into China, the psychoactive version of cannabis was being cultivated separately from other hemp plants, which were a staple for food, clothing, and oil. For general use, however, humans had been cultivating cannabis as early as 12,000 BC, making it one of the first plants humans learned to cultivate. Around 3000 BC, the psychoactive version of cannabis made its way to India, where it famously became associated with the Kush Mountains and became a cultural and religious icon of Lord Shiva, the de facto badass of the Hindu pantheon, because as it turns out, the cannabis plant is his favorite food. His proclivity for eating weed plants earned him the title the Lord of the Bong, which, although sounds like a glass pipe, it refers to marijuana that has been macerated and absorbed into milk. This weed milk, or bong, has special significance in Indian culture because although cannabis is technically illegal, the cultivation of wild cannabis and distribution of bong on certain religious festivals is hallowed and legally sanctioned.
Bong. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, they've been calling it that for a while. And apparently
but
its consumption pleases Lord Shiva, and you do it during this festival.
it's just interesting the pipe is named after that.
Full-time worshippers of Shiva, famously the small sect of Shivite sadhus from Uttar Pradesh known as Agori, consume bong and even smoke cannabis plant during some meditations or ceremonies. Ancient Hindu texts attribute the onset of fever with the hot breath of the gods, who were angered by the afflicted person's behavior. Using cannabis in religious rites appease the gods and hence reduce the fever. And as we know, cannabis has the ability to bring down body temperature.
Yeah, it opens up the blood vessels, so more blood flow equals cooler body.
In Africa, shift leaders will even give it to their crew that are hard laborers on their lunch, so they work harder and more efficiently after their lunch. So it makes you the opposite of lazy if you do physical labor and you're in the sun.
And most physical laborers I know use it religiously because it pretty much brings your mind off of, oh, my body hurts, and you can get back into your work a lot better, like seamlessly.
For instance, let's say a day laborer and you have to wear a sweatshirt all day, otherwise you'll get burned. And, just it happens to be the best way to work. It still sucks and you get hot and tired. Anything where you're doing really hard labor in the sun all day, that's where you're going to find the cannabis use.
Probably, yeah.
So let people use it, getting on my soapbox. There are numerous folklore versions of how bong appeared on Earth. Often it's given to Shiva by his wife Parvati to cure one ailment or another. In one account, the gods famously churn the ocean in hopes of producing the sacred Amrit, or elixir of immortality. Each place the Amrit drops is another place the cannabis flower blossomed. Naturally, this speaks to cannabis's ability to aid and heal numerous maladies of the body, soul, and mind. From Asia, it spread to Latin America, Africa, and only recently into North America, with colonists bringing it in the 1600s. They later would replace their own stock with Chinese imported hemp that was of higher quality in the 1850s. After all, as we learned today, China has been using it expertly for various purposes since before recorded human history. Prior to the DuPont Chemical Company's lobbying the U.S. Congress with racist anti-Latino propaganda, hemp was a staple in American life and a sustainable resource for all.
Yeah, it was taken down by the paper pulp industry.
DuPont.
Because they had a monopoly with paper production and they used cotton and trees. But hemp actually produces tons more than any of those things combined.
It's sustainable.
And And you can smoke it and get high, and it's just the flowers, and you use the stalk to make rope and paper.
Yeah, our Constitution was written on hemp. But
Hell
it's
yeah.
funny because the term marijuana isn't even like a real Spanish word or anything. It was made up to just sound like it was from Mexico or South or Central America to demonize people.
I even heard recently that there's some legislation going on somewhere up north of here. I don't know if it's in Canada or Northern America, but they're outlawing the use of the word marijuana in favor of cannabis because it's racist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it totally is
Yeah,
because
it
it's
is.
meant to sound like it's Latin and it's just cannabis. That's what the scientific name of the plant is.
That's the name of the plant.
There's no reason why it should even be called marijuana.
So now that we've talked about the invention of the word marijuana, in regard to our last episode, researchers think cannabis was probably sacred to ancient Germanic paganism for its likely association to the Norse god Freya. In fact, the Proto-Germanic hanapis is a Scythian word that cannabis is derived from and means the same thing. I just thought it was funny the quote, Hyperboreans and the Chinese have had weed for a long time. Scrolls dated to approximately 2000 BC found in ancient Egypt suggest that the Egyptians consumed weed for cataracts and sore eyes.
It treats glaucoma.
The Ebers Papyrus, dated 1550 BC, contains a prescription that mentions marijuana and administering it to women during childbirth to ease contractions. The Egyptians also ground cannabis and honey and introduced it into the vagina to keep the uterus cool. It was probably and generally understood to be anti-inflammatory.
Just stick it on up there.
Mm-hmm. And you can also put it in your butthole, apparently. Because Warren Dawson writes that the ancient Egyptians also used it for sore toenail and irrigating the rectum.
You know, sometimes you just gotta irrigate your rectum.
Ramses II was buried with some weed.
I would put that in my tomb.
Well, our studies would tell us that he must have needed it for the duat. He must have had a reason for it in the afterlife. You never known to need a rectal irrigation, you know, like...
Whether you're alive or dead, it might feel good.
I hope I have a rectum when I'm in the afterlife.
You do.
Why? So you can poop on people that are alive from above.
Need a spell for that.
You don't want to be too anal in the afterlife either.
As my marijuana doctor told me in Thousand Oaks, California in 2009, weed doesn't just affect one neurotransmitter, part of the brain. It works across the whole brain. And it works in this chemical cascade type fashion. It's difficult to predict exactly what it'll do for each person. Anecdotally, this seems true to some extent. For instance, if you're depressed, it can pick you up. If you're angry or anxious, it can calm you down. For some, it increases appetite. For others, it decreases it. I believe that it's for this reason cannabis is associated with Bina and Saturn. Bina has the energy of a tent being held up by two poles leaning against each other, a lean-to. This is how I've had it described to me what weed does in the brain. It also does tend to cause people to be more relaxed, even if they are more receptive. Bina is known as the receptive intelligence, and being really high is more or less the state of relaxed receptivity that one is supposed to be exhibiting during the Shabbat or the Sabbath.
And I've noticed that too, is when you have like a negative or an anxiety reaction, it's usually because you're not balanced in your regular life. Like you're having some issues, and same applies to the psychedelics we were talking about before. If you're in a bad frame of mind or you're having a panic attack, you probably shouldn't, indulge. And then this creates the balance that we see. Then if you're overextended or you're burnt out, or if you're needing to relax, or on the other hand, if you need to get some creative energy juices flowing, this thing can kind of balance you out. So, because it'll give you the opposite of what you're actually living in your everyday life.
Now, I've heard some Rastas say this receptive intelligence combined with the red eyes and the other subjective feelings associated with the Passion of Christ and the mourning of Mother Mary. This makes some sense to me also because cannabis has the ability to put us into a pre-verbal natural state of a divine intoxication, similar to what it was believed during the age of Isis, as we would say in the occult community, before humans were disconnected from the earth. The way we became disconnected from our mother during the formation of our ego. So in short, marijuana slaps the ego so hard it can take you back to this Edenic state. Have you ever seen a baby get milk drunk on breast milk? It's like the same idea. But I'm a crazy weed person, so I don't know.
I've seen that before, and it is very accurate.
Like, if you were to take a brain scan of a baby getting milk drunk and somebody smoking weed and getting really high, I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure it would look the same, though.
And the same as somebody who's been at the Golden Corral for way too long.
Which brings us to our third drug on the list, ketamine.
Which is a very complicated alchemical process, I think.
And I've only indulged a little bit, not enough to make it matter.
But people have been asking we talk about this on the show for some time, so I gave it the college try. What is ketamine really used for. Although ketamine is used as a horse tranquilizer, this is not its primary use. I would imagine it got that reputation because horses and their supplies are probably easy to steal from. The truth is that ketamine is a powerful anesthetic with highly specialized features, the most important being its relatively negligible effect on the heart and lungs at surgery-level doses. This makes it indispensable to third-world medicine that does not always have access to expensive electrical heart and lung monitoring machines.
Isn't ketamine listed on the World Health Organization as being like one of the necessary medicines?
Yes.
For anesthesia, yeah. And it's because it doesn't destabilize your circulatory or breathing or your respiratory system while you're under. It just affects your brain, your consciousness. It literally just puts you out. Like, it's one of the original anesthetics they used.
Better yet, ketamine is also capable of achieving general anesthesia while the patient is awake. I've heard stories of nurses using ketamine on children to clean severe burn wounds while carrying out a casual conversation with the child.
Right. So if I want some free K, jump in a fire.
Oh, don't, please. Just go to the vet.
Don't do that. Don't
Just
do
go
that,
to the
people.
vet. Just
You got-
make friends with a veterinarian.
You gotta steal from a horse.
I've done it before. I'm not proud of it, but I have.
Hey, a horse paralyzed Superman. I don't fuck with horses.
Ketamine has also been shown to be an effective treatment in otherwise treatment-resistant forms of PTSD and depression. I will quote one study which shows its efficacy in emergency short-circuiting suicidal ideation. Ketamine rapidly reduces suicidal thoughts within 1 day and for up to 1 week in depressed patients with suicidal ideation. Ketamine's effects on suicidal ideation were partly independent of its effects on mood, although subsequent trials and transdiagnostic samples are required to confirm that ketamine exerts a specific effect on suicidal ideation. Additional research on ketamine's long-term safety and its efficacy in reducing suicide risk is needed before clinical implementation.
You know what's really weird though is I've seen advertisements saying that you can like get the ketamine therapy delivered to your door online.
Delivered to your door? Now that's...
Yeah, and then you go on
Come
the
on,
app. You go on the app with the doctor and you have a guided therapy session while you're tripping.
Do they deliver it on horses? That would be awesome.
Oh my god, if only. That would be like oh my god. That would be like a dream.
I'd like to do it with horses.
That would be amazing too.
Yes.
But I'm considering this therapy actually because I've been to many counselors and it doesn't work. And I've taken psychiatric drugs that don't work. And there's something about psychedelics or disassociation itself that can help with that suicidal, that, oh no, I'm trapped here kind of ideation.
I really feel like ketamine is capable of nudging you into like a better functionality. Like having a ketamine experience can nudge you into that, and I think that's why it's so effective in
it reframes your point of perspective. Like you can kind of draw out and look at yourself like a movie instead of being hypercritical of, like, the ego is taken out of it, and I think that's what's important about this drug.
As we're going to learn, using it regularly is definitely not the answer to anyone's problems, but there has been some evidence to show that its infrequent use or its emergency use as therapy can sometimes stop the worst of the symptoms, and some people believe it can even help neurogenesis and help you create new neural pathways in the brain, which we're going to get more research as time goes on.
LSD and mushrooms already do that. Mushrooms for sure already create neurogenesis, but it's interesting that this tranquilizer could do that, or this anesthetic.
There is a hole that is named ketamine that has a sign saying more drugs down here, and it goes pretty deep and you can get stuck down there.
Because I'm not exactly the best poster boy for abstinence, I thought I would tell our listeners a little story about what happens when you take the ketamine horse ride a bit too far. Too far being relative for some people. Let's be clear. Has anybody ever seen the horror movie Altered States?
It's a crazy one.
What about a novel named Snow Crash? How about Echo the Dolphin?
I love Echo.
They probably would not exist if not for the real-life set of strange events performed by John Lilly in the early 70s. John Lilly had suffered regular migraine headaches for a great deal of his life, which came upon him regularly like clockwork every 18 hours. During World War II, John had performed research on the effects of high altitude on the human body and invented instruments for measuring gas pressure. In 1951, he published a paper showing how he could display patterns of brain electrical activity on cathode ray display screens using electrodes he devised specifically for insertion into a living brain. Furthermore, Lilly's work on electrical stimulation of the nervous system gave rise to biphasic charge balanced electrical stimulation pulses, later shortened to Lilly's wave or Lilly's pulses, now an established approach to design of safe electrical stimulation in neuroprosthetics. So when you were a little kid and you're like, how do they just put the thing on there and it knows how to move? That's how. It was this guy. Yet still, despite a prolific understanding of the brain and the subtle forces which govern it, he was yet unable to cure his own skull-pounding migraine headaches. That was until he met Dr. Craig Enright, who suggested that he use a sensory deprivation chamber, the same exact one John himself had invented, but with the addition of injected ketamine. I'm going to read from one of our sources that's in the notes. As Lilly floated in the isolation tank, Enright injected him with 35 milligrams of ketamine. Within a few minutes, Lilly could actually visualize the migraine pain moving out of his skull to a point levitating there in appreciative space. Lilly felt no pain whatsoever for some 20 minutes, until it once again re-entered his head. When Lilly began moaning and groaning in his water-filled sanctum of pain, Enright injected him with another 70 milligrams. This time, Lilly felt the pain moving further away, 12 feet this time. 30 minutes later, the migraine lightning bolt of pain came rushing back, lodging itself once again into Dr. Lilly's head. Enright reloaded his syringe and shot the good doctor up with 150 milligrams. I like Dr. Enright. This time, when the pain vacated Lilly's head, it kept going and didn't come back, clear over the horizon, never to be seen again. An hour later, after the K wore off, Lilly climbed out of the tank, a new man. And John Lilly... Oh, go ahead.
That's a good fucking story, man. It's like he went to go bury his migraine deep down in the K-hole. Trapped it down there. It's awesome.
This is like exorcism by way of ketamine.
I think there's something to that, but I can't say what.
Definitely, like in my meditation, I imagine a shiny ball in my body scanning cell by cell, one by one, and getting all the gunk out, and then I just shoot it out. So
Ketamine exorcism.
This is a cool story. I didn't know this.
So John Lilly, he was a new man. He famously went on to conduct various experiments in his isolation tank with volunteers. Famously, some involved LSD, but John was much more interested in ketamine for some important reasons. One determining factor in Lilly's decision to continue experimenting with K was its measurability. Unlike other programming agents he had used in the past, K's effects were extremely predictable, in that you could determine exacting levels of dosage to correspond with the desired effect one wished to experience, where other mind expansion agents such as LSD and psilocybin were much more unpredictable in regards to the facilitation of desired programming. This brings to mind a possible correlation between ketamine and DMT, with each of these drugs administered at certain exacting dosages, apparently summoned forth to the percipient involved, extraterrestrial or other dimensional entities. High doses of psilocybin have affected this response in some users, Terence McKenna among others, who have communicated telepathically with alien intelligences under the mushroom otherworldly aegis. But psilocybin's effects are quirky. Perhaps this is why the measurability and predictability of K so appealed to Dr. Lilly. In this manner, the scientific method could be followed to achieve the desired mind-bending results.
Okay, so this makes sense why Echo the Dolphin, the game, is about aliens.
Oh, would you just wait?
Oh my god. It's coming together.
In the 1960s, John Lilly would take up an interest in cross-species communication and purchase a seed lab in Florida and flooded it to create a human-dolphin cohabitation house to progress his research.
Omer.
I see where this is going.
Omer.
John Lilly reflected on this time of his life, saying, during a session in an isolation tank constructed over a pool where dolphins were swimming.
Oh my god.
I would do it. I would do it too.
I participated in a conversation between the dolphins. It drove me crazy. There was too much information. They communicated so fast. John also believed his life was being guarded and watched over by a group of sublime entities known as ECCO, which stood for Earth Coincidence Control Office.
Oh my god, this is like if Dale Gribble made a video game.
Dude, if anyone who's done enough ketamine knows what he's talking about. After all, John had almost boiled himself in one of his tanks one day when his friend, suddenly overwhelmed with urgent anxiety, phoned John's wife, who found him face down, blitzed out on ketamine in his hot tub, turning blue, not breathing. Thankfully, it was more like a tube, really, not a tub, but a tube. Thankfully, she had learned some CPR from the National Enquirer a few days earlier.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Really?
I would laugh at it too.
And was able to resuscitate him. John attributed this to the work of ECCO.
Bro, this is epic.
Like, I'm sorry.
See, I didn't know anything about other than his dolphin lab that he made. Like, I didn't know about his personal life. I'm like, oh, he is fucking out there, dude.
An isolation tank that opens up into dolphins? Come on, man. John also contacted negative entities through his journeying, including an evil version of Philip K. Dick's Valis, named SSI for Solid State Intelligence, and was a supercomputer-like entity that opposed ECCO.
Oh, the vortex.
He tried calling President Ford, but the White House aides wouldn't put him through, despite his credentials. And eventually, like what happens to all great ketamine junkies, his friends eventually cut him off.
Like, no, bro, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. Look, you gotta stop. This is getting crazy, man.
I don't have the exact factoid here, but there is some evidence to suggest clinically that ketamine does enhance the subjective experience of synchronicity. Now, yes, but anyone who's really underwent a true synchronicity knows that cannot be explained by a substance, despite the fact it seems to correlate with it. Wrap your head around that one, and I'll smoke one for John Lilly, because Dolphins.
I would.
Are you going to talk at all about the magnesium relationship with ketamine?
There, she just dolphin talked some knowledge.
Okay.
I can do it.
Just real brief. Some people, and I'm not suggesting you do this, some people have had breakthrough experiences with their anxiety and their depression just by taking magnesium. And it's pretty well understood that magnesium needs calcium to absorb correctly, so oftentimes they come bottled together, not always. But in short, some people theorize that the effect that ketamine has on the human body is really not that different from magnesium, so you should maybe try that first.
Well, they work on the same receptors, don't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like my understanding is that there's a lot of people that have a magnesium deficiency, and that this definitely will affect your mood as well. So you might not even get to the point where you need to have ketamine therapy if you have sufficient magnesium. But because magnesium and calcium also have a relationship, that means that you also need to have sufficient calcium. And I think the dosing for magnesium and calcium is usually like two part calcium to 1 part magnesium. That's usually like what you'll find. But those are pretty essential for having like a healthy mind and body.
What do they call them? Like the essential minerals, right? In a diet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you need iron, you need magnesium, calcium.
It's an electrolyte.
Phosphorus.
If you take too much, it'll make you poop.
Most people do have a magnesium deficiency. They're not getting enough magnesium. And I think the relationship with ketamine with magnesium is really interesting. The fact that they work on the same receptors, and also that I think there's some information out there saying that there's been studies where people have been taking magnesium with the ketamine, and it actually makes it even better.
Ooh.
So,
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
it's like synergistic. They work,
mhm.
they improve each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do this at home, kids, but I heard that ecstasy and taurine, like,
Oh,
pure
yeah.
ecstasy and taurine, you got to mix it, or else you're going to kind of just get one side of what a pill would give you. Like pills are
I should
a
try that.
concoction. Pills
So
are a
you should
concoction.
you should eat meat when you take Molly.
Yeah,
Oh.
because taurine is like, I know taurine is a necessary intake for cats
Oh.
found in meat. They need
It's found in dead flesh. Basically, is it an amino acid, Heka?
I don't remember. I think it is a kind of acid.
It's a basic acid, but a lot of carnivores function off of taurine, and it does enhance your metabolic system if you take in more of it. And then magnesium and magnesium
and calcium.
Yeah, calcium. They facilitate the processes, and then taurine can actually boost that as well.
I personally think people need taurine as omnivores.
Agree.
I think any meat-eating animal, I think, needs taurine. I find it really interesting that they would say it's a necessity for cats, but they don't say it's a necessity for dogs. Like, you won't see it listed as like a necessary nutrient.
Well,
for
dogs are similarly omnivores, but technically they come from carnivores, and so do we. So it's like,
But like, you can't have a vegetarian dog.
No, and
sorry.
No, you go.
Yeah, because for this episode, I went to all kinds of different places and started looking at GMOs and stuff and the potential that has on our diet. Because like, if you're trying to cut out, meat from your diet, you gotta do something. And long story short, I found out like there's some real bad things with GMOs, and like, I don't know, it made me want to change my diet. Totally.
You don't want to eat so many grains. You want to eat more like whole foods.
Not from Whole Foods though.
No, not from that place. I'm just saying.
I might have to.
no GMO, and then avoid like grains, because we're not bred to eat grains. Grains is for or cattle that have multiple stomachs, or they have a different digestive tract than we do.
I really feel like there should be a better defining word than GMO, because most of the food that we eat is GMO.
Right.
So I feel like there should be something that defines it better, because
even made grain.
Well, like, it's the same thing as like how we've basically made one plant into 3 different plants, and like kale, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. They're all the same plant that has been known to have.
But that has to do with like different cultures breeding in different areas, like geographical locations. And then GMO directly means that it was modified in a lab and then grown directly after the genetic modification, and it's usually done to withstand like pesticides, so that the plant can grow and not die from the pesticide, which that's a genetically modified organism.
Yeah, Hector's right though. Some of the stuff I was getting into for research at the scientific level, they do have different terms for generally speaking about GMOs. There are like bad ones, and then there are like, I guess you would call them natural ones. They're
breeds.
Yeah,
they've been bred.
That's at a higher level of discussion where you're using like right terms for everything. Because then there are like lab grown meats now that's made from soybeans.
This is why I'm saying.
Go ahead, Heka.
Because technically,
Hold on. Go ahead, Heka.
This is why I'm saying, because technically all kale, all broccoli, and all Brussels sprouts are genetically modified. That is literally what makes them kale, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts.
But they're modified by selection, not by a lab DNA splicing.
Well, this is why I'm saying that's why just using the general term genetic modifying isn't quite sufficient, because that's applicable to things that aren't modified in a lab sense of splicing and shoving together genes that, this is how you make fucking goat silk spiders.
Like how they say a pig and elephant DNA just don't splice.
There's also only citrons, I believe. Like limes and lemons are not so different.
Yeah, they're all citrons.
I was like, what?
And I agree with that. If you do it over generations and grow the plant, that's fine. But when you take it into a lab and inject RNA and DNA into it, I don't like that.
I want cotton candy flavored peanuts.
Yeah, no. And then they made trees that have a gene that bioluminescent animals have, or plants have, and the trees light up in the dark. They glow in the dark. Yeah, no, I'm not for that. But something that's interesting is, even though we need taurine, we need meat and stuff like that, and we probably shouldn't be eating a ton of grain because we're not vegetarians. However, if we ferment the grain and we pre-digest the things that we're not able to digest, we can actually take it in, and that is where beer comes from, and alcohol is it's a fermented grain.
Yeah,
and it can kind of get you high a little bit.
It's totally alchemy.
Hit it, Melkor.
Right. I'm just gonna cover this real quick, and then we're done with this, or
For the free episode, yeah.
okay. Yeah, beer, like brewing, and even creating grain alcohol, like whiskey, bourbons, gin, and all that stuff. That's freaking alchemy, and it does require certain apparatus sometimes. And I really like how the Trappist monks have a rich tradition of passing down, essentially, genetically modified plants up in their specific monasteries, by choice. These are their laboratories, and they're making, that's what they're doing. They're making different potions. And I was always told that the water back in Europe in the medieval times or whatever, the water wasn't always good. But historically, Europe has a lot of fresh water, and by this time, people knew what fresh water was used for. But that I was told that's why the monks brewed beer, because there wasn't clean water everywhere. And I'd imagine a well getting poisoned or something by something falling in there and dying. It probably could happen, and they probably started brewing some good beer instead of drinking the water straight up. But it's also, the beer is used as a good stimulant, I guess, for workers. The monasteries are supposed to be self-sustaining, so that's kind of where I got in my head. I was like, man, all these GMOs and stuff, like, how can I even be self-sustaining like a freaking monk? And it's kind of hard in the modern age, but they're still doing it. They're still Trappist beers,
And they're fucking good.
yeah.
And they get you drunk.
Yeah, they get you tore up. You gotta
Mhm.
be one with God, pretty much. And I thought it was also interesting that Nubian mummies that were studied in the 1990s, they were found to contain significant levels of tetracycline. Sorry,
Is that from hops or barley or something?
tetracycline. Yeah,
Cycling.
cycline. Yeah, I had it the first time.
Yeah.
And this was because the beer brewed at the time was conjectured to have been the source of that tetracycline. And I just imagine it. It's like you're dying, and you're like, cover me in booze, because when I get to the land of reeds, I want a good buzz or maybe a
Yeah.
hangover.
I've heard that beer is called liquid bread. If you don't have nothing to eat, bread is better than nothing.
Yeah. But alchemy goes all the way back to Egypt. I think that's what we're going to start talking about in the second half, about the Hermetic alchemy stuff.
And if you want to hear that portion of the show, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where we will tell you the ingredients to give you a potion that will make you eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Brew carrots and shoot lasers.